Hey guys, it's Morgan from Toucan. I'm an account executive here, and today I'm going to be talking to you about embedded analytics. So if you're a CPO at a SaaS company and your customers are asking for analytics, right now you basically have two options. Option one, of course, is you add it to the roadmap, like everything else, and engineering says, yeah, totally, shouldn't be too bad. And then 6 months later, everyone realizes that you've accidentally started building a mini version of Tableau, while also somehow becoming experts in permissions, exports, caching, and why CSV files are apparently immortal. Or option two, you embed an analytics platform directly into your product. And this second part is what the video is all about. So this is not going to be a polished enterprise software demo, and it's not AI-powered next generation synergistic insights platforms either, because I don't think anyone talks like that in real life. So today it's just going to be about what embedding an analytics AI product looks like in practice, what the setup involves, what Toucan AI actually does, what's easy, and what still requires work. And realistically, how fast you can go from customers keep asking for dashboards to, okay, cool, customers are actually using this. Because I talk to SaaS product teams and leaders about this constantly. It's literally my job. And most of them are in the exact same situation. Customers want analytics, sales teams want analytics, CSMs want analytics, your CEO saw a competitor launch AI analytics last week, and your roadmap is honestly just already a mess. And you don't have the capacity to add anything else. And the real problem really is not typically like we don't have charts. The real problem is every customer demo now includes someone asking, can I get reporting on this? And at first, product teams think like, yeah, we'll just build this whole dashboard section. And of course, it sounds reasonable. Until you realize that analytics is never just charts, KPIs, and filters. It quickly becomes authentication, permissions, multi-tenancy, exports, query performance, responsive layouts, governance, row-level security, semantic definitions, and nowadays AI-generated queries. So suddenly your product team is spending their sprint planning and debating like export formats. And this is not why your product team joined your SaaS in the first place. But anyway, the other thing that I constantly hear in first calls is we've already tried scoping this internally, like twice already, and it keeps becoming deprioritized. And really, this makes a lot of sense because most SaaS companies don't actually want to become analytics vendors. They just want analytics inside their product. So that's a very different thing. And of course, now with AI, there's another layer because your customers no longer just want these like static dashboards. They want to ask questions. They want natural language analytics. They want AI generated charts. And honestly, once you've asked ChatGPT for something once, going back to manually configuring a dashboard starts to have this level of like emotional difficulty. And this is exactly where Toucan AI becomes specifically interesting because instead of rebuilding an entire AI native analytics layer internally, you plug in a platform designed specifically for this use case. So I guess what I can continue with is like, what does AI analytics embedded actually mean? And so what I can say is at a high level, your SaaS product gets connected to Toucan AI and your app sends authentication information securely to us. So then Toucan AI renders analytics directly inside your product. So of course, then your users never have to leave your application. And so from the customer perspective, it feels super native. The UX is excellent. And of course, then it's your branding, your colors, your menus, your product. So customers aren't feeling like, ooh, this is like a suspicious looking iframe from like 2016. But anyway, the other important part of Toucan AI is that it's AI native. This means that users can interact with analytics using natural language. So instead of manually building a dashboard, configuring every chart, creating every filter from scratch, users can ask questions directly. So for example, show churn trends by customer segment over the last 12 months. And of course, then the AI generates the visualization automatically. But, and of course this is also important, the product is not just the generation step because generating charts with AI is becoming commoditized surprisingly fast. So the hard part is everything that actually happens after and before generation. Saving charts, sharing them, versioning them, applying the permissions, and keeping them reliable. So making sure that tenant A does not see tenant B's revenue data. And of course, this sounds super obvious until you have 50 tenants, enterprise customers, and suddenly now this like legal team that's asking you super detailed questions. So yeah, I'm going to hop into the live demo, show you a bit what the product looks like, and we'll go from there. So now that I'm actually within the Toucan platform, we can show you how it's actually done. So here you can see with our getting started square that we have Embed an AI chat, which is to give access to your end users to ask questions to their data and receive direct answers. Then, of course, you can embed a read-only dashboard, which is maybe more of this traditional idea that we have of embedded analytics. We think it's still an important use case, even though people really are leaning more into that conversational analytics aspect. And then we have embed a self-service dashboard where end users can build their own ideal perfect dashboard from scratch using natural language. So, of course, first what we have to do is connect our database. So I have a Postgres and a BigQuery connected, but of course we have some other options. So you're also able to add MySQL, ClickHouse, Snowflake, and really any sort of SQL database we're able to connect to. So here, when I enter into the data area, we can see that there are different areas where I can add descriptions of my data. So I can continue to add more information here to basically continue to give my AI additional context. This really allows us to give quality responses to the end user. You can think about this as a light semantic layer with a really full-fledged semantic layer coming very soon. So I also think it's important to highlight how this part really compares to building analytics internally. So of course, if you're building internally, you need connection handling, authentication, your refresh logic, and schema evolution management, and all that stuff. And this is even before rendering your first chart. So I think this is really where projects already start slowing down. But anyway, I'm going to head into the actual dashboard building area. So you can see I've already built a bit of a dashboard and have added some charts already. So I'm going to continue refining this dashboard. And I'm going to ask maybe a question like, show me gender distribution. And okay, this is really the cool part and where people actually start to say like, yes, this is cool. Because of course, instead of manually configuring a chart from scratch, the AI is creating your first usable analytics experience basically immediately. And this again is also where Toucan AI is intentionally different from a simple like AI chart generator, because of course, users don't just want this generation that you see here. They want additional refinement capabilities. So after generation, I can continue into manual mode to edit titles, adjust layouts, tweak filters, maybe change some thresholds, modify colors, reorganize my dashboard, the whole bit. And that's without reprompting them the entire thing every single time. And we think that this hybrid workflow really means a lot because although people really love AI generation, they also want control afterwards. And that's what this part gives them. And that's also how I think like software engineers sometimes become supervillains. But anyway, now, of course, the last part is save, sharing, and managing your dashboard. So if I actually go to save this dashboard for my end user, now it's able for all of my end users to actually see. And of course, in Toucan AI, a dashboard becomes a reusable artifact. So this means that users can save them, revisit them, share them, organize them, and then of course, evolve them over time. And this sounds like a super small idea until you actually try to build this yourself for your end users. So now you need persistent versioning, permissions, state reconciliation, and governance. So for example, if a user manually edits 3 elements and then regenerates the dashboard with AI, what's going to survive? And that's a real product problem. So that's really something that Toucan solves with this capacity for like building the self-service dashboard from scratch. But now I want to lastly go to like my user model area, because I think this is where things really start not being fun and become architectural diagrams. Here I'm defining rules so that each customer can only see their own data, meaning that tenant A can only see tenant A data and tenant B will see tenant B's data. There's no duplicated dashboards, no terrifying SQL conditions hidden somewhere that nobody wants to deal with. And I really think that this is one of the biggest engineering time sinks in internal analytic builds, because once permissions get complicated, everything else gets complicated, especially with AI generated analytics. Because now, of course, then you also need governance. So which metrics are certified, which definitions are trusted, what can users explore freely. And that's why Toucan AI is using that semantic layer and certified metrics underneath the AI. So then, of course, and that again is here in the structure area. And that, of course, allows for the same logic every time. And they're getting their answers based on definitions. So then lastly, of course, then the last step is embedding into a SaaS product. So we're going to be using a web component, and basically all you have to do is copy paste that and put it into your front end. Your back end will generate this authentication token, which is done with the JSON web token. And once that is that's generated on the fly each time the user logs in, and you're basically good to go after that, especially once those user permissions are already taken care of. So I think that's basically it. You can see that it's pretty easy. And of course, I think it wouldn't be a real SaaS conversation if I didn't finish up with like the honest part, because it is true, unfortunately, that Toucan AI does not magically solve all of your problems. First of all, your data does still need to be reasonably clean. So if your warehouse is containing like a file, it's like final file, use this one, CSV, ... then yes, there is some work that still is going to happen. AI analytics accelerates delivery. It does not perform emotional healing on your data model. So second, your team still needs to define what metrics matter. Then AI can generate the dashboards faster. But deciding what customers to track and what's actually creating value is still a product decision. Third, if you need extremely custom visualizations or highly bespoke workflows, of course, there are limits. Most SaaS products are completely covered by standard analytics experiences, but if your vision includes some sort of 3D, multiplayer AI, holographic, Sankey diagram, you may still need some engineers, and of course, that's okay. So the goal is not zero effort forever. The goal is avoiding spending 6 to 12 months rebuilding AI analytics infrastructure internally. So I guess I can really finish up by giving you like a realistic conclusion. And so if your data is reasonably structured, you have someone who can configure analytics experiences, and you know what your customers actually want to track, you can realistically get your first AI-powered embedded analytic experience live within days. I'm not talking quarters. I'm not talking hopefully Q4. I'm saying days. And honestly, for most SaaS companies, that's changing the entire conversation, because then your analytics stops being a giant infrastructure project, and it starts becoming a configurable AI native product layer. And honestly, I do really think that this is where the market is going. AI will and already has absolutely transformed embedded analytics. So really the question is no longer, can AI generate dashboards? Obviously, yes. The real question is, who operates the production system around those AI-generated analytics experiences? And that's the layer that Toucan AI is really focused on. And yeah, I guess if you want to test Toucan AI with your own product, your own data model, and your own use cases, there's, of course, going to be a free trial link below this video. So yeah, thanks for watching, and hopefully we see each other soon.